Okay, so you own a ranch, hundreds of acres of open country, cattle grazing, no boss, no commute, the kind of life people put on calendars and mean sincerely. You've bought into something older and more romantic than almost any other business in America. You've also bought into one of the worst returns on capital in commerce, a job that never ends, and a livelihood in which the two forces that decide whether you profit, the weather and the market, are both entirely beyond your reach. By the end of this, you'll understand why $1 million of land and cattle can generate a working-class income, why your assets can't be touched without shrinking the business, and why the phrase land rich, cash poor was invented for exactly this. Let's start with the number that defines everything. The average net profit per head of cattle commonly lands somewhere around $50 to $200 after feed, veterinary care, and other costs. That's per animal, per year. Sit with that. If you're netting $150 a head and you run 100 cattle, your entire year of work produces roughly $15,000. To generate a genuine middle-class income from cattle alone, you need a herd in the hundreds, which means land in the hundreds or thousands of acres, which means capital measured in millions. And that capital is enormous. Ranch land runs from under $2,000 an acre in dry country to $7,000 or $10,000 an acre, and up in better regions. Infrastructure, fencing, wells, water storage, barns, corrals, handling facilities commonly cost $50,000 to $200,000. Equipment adds another $50,000 to $100,000. Cattle themselves run roughly $800 to $2,000 a head. A medium-sized operation typically needs around $650,000 to start. And buying a functioning ranch with land, herd, and equipment easily reaches into the millions. Now, put the two numbers side by side, and you have the central misery of ranching. You have perhaps $1 million or several $1 million tied up in land, animals, and machinery, and it produces an income that a salaried professional might earn without owning anything at all. As a return on invested capital, it is dismal. Almost any other use of that money, invested conventionally, would produce more income with none of the labor. This is not a secret in agriculture. It's the well-understood reason so much ranch land is held by families who inherited it and carry no mortgage, or by wealthy owners for whom the ranch is a lifestyle and a long-term land bet rather than a business expected to pay its own way. That last group distorts the market in a way working ranchers feel directly. When buyers with outside wealth bid up ranch land for its recreational or investment appeal, the price per acre rises far beyond what the land can actually produce in cattle income. A person trying to buy a ranch and make a living from it is competing against people who never intended to. That gap between what land costs and what it earns is one of the quiet reasons new entrants struggle so badly, which produces the condition every rancher knows by name: land rich, cash poor. On paper, you're a millionaire. In practice, you may be struggling to cover a vet bill. And here's why that trap has no easy exit. Your wealth is your means of production. You cannot sell land to raise cash without reducing your grazing capacity, which reduces how many cattle you can run, which reduces your income permanently. You cannot sell off cattle to cover a shortfall without cutting into the breeding herd that generates next year's calves. Every asset you could liquidate is an asset you need in order to keep earning. So the ranch is simultaneously a fortune and a cage. This also makes borrowing complicated in a way outsiders rarely appreciate. Lenders will happily lend against ranch land, which is exactly the problem. It's easy to end up carrying debt secured by the land, serviced out of a margin of a couple $100 per animal. A few bad years in a row, and the interest payments alone can exceed what the cattle produce, at which point the only way to service the debt is to sell a piece of the very asset generating the income. Many ranches have been slowly dismantled that way, parcel by parcel, by owners who never made a single reckless decision. Now let's talk about the two forces that actually determine whether you make money, neither of which you control. The first is weather. Grass is your real product. cattle are just the machine that converts it into money. When rain doesn't come, your pasture fails, and you face a brutal choice. Buy hay at drought prices, which can obliterate your margin since feed already runs $200 to $500 per cow annually. Or sell cattle into a market flooded with other ranchers doing the same thing, at exactly the moment prices are worst. Drought forces you to liquidate at the bottom, and rebuilding a herd afterward takes years because you can't manufacture breeding cows. A single dry season can set an operation back half a decade. And the damage isn't only financial. Overgrazing during a drought, when there's no better option, degrades the pasture itself, reducing what the land can carry for years afterward. Careful ranchers manage this with rotational grazing, dividing pasture into paddocks and moving cattle so the grass recovers. But drought can force you to graze land that should be resting. You end up damaging your primary asset in order to survive the season and paying for it long after the rain returns. The second is the market. Cattle prices swing on cycles driven by national herd size, feed costs, export demand, and consumer trends, none of which you influence in the slightest. You are the purest kind of price taker. Your product is a commodity, indistinguishable from your neighbors, sold into a market that quotes you a number you can accept or refuse. You cannot brand your way out of it, cannot raise prices to cover rising costs, cannot pass inflation along. When feed and fuel go up, your input costs rise immediately. When cattle prices fall, your revenue falls immediately. The margin lives in the gap between two numbers you don't set. And your costs, meanwhile, are relentlessly fixed. Property taxes on hundreds of acres don't pause in a bad year. Insurance for property, liability, and equipment runs thousands annually. Machinery breaks and must be repaired. Fence, which is thousands of linear feet of it, requires constant maintenance. Feed must be bought whether or not the market cooperates. So you have fixed costs, volatile revenue, and no pricing power, which is the classic recipe for a business that can do everything right and still lose money. Now the part that romantic buyers underestimate most, the labor. Livestock are alive, which means the work is every day, forever. Cattle must be fed and watered daily, including in blizzards and on holidays. Calving season means checking the herd through the night and pulling calves at 3 in the morning in freezing weather, because a calf lost is hundreds of dollars gone. Fences break and cattle get out, often at the worst possible time. Water systems freeze. A cow drinks 10 to 20 gallons a day, so a failed well or a frozen tank in the wrong pasture isn't an inconvenience. It's an emergency that has to be solved immediately, regardless of the hour or the temperature. Animals get sick and injured and sometimes die despite everything you do. There is no closing time, no weekend, no meaningful way to take a vacation unless someone qualified will run the place. And qualified help is scarce and expensive. A ranch manager averages around $60,000 a year, and paying one out of a margin of $150 a head is arithmetic that only works at large scale, which is exactly why the industry consolidates. Larger operations spread fixed costs over more animals, negotiate better on inputs, and survive downturns that wipe out smaller ones. The economics push relentlessly toward scale, meaning a mid-sized family ranch is squeezed from both directions. Too big to be a hobby, too small to achieve the efficiency that makes the margins work. And then there's the risk profile, which is unusually broad. Disease can move through a herd. Predators take calves. Theft happens. Equipment fails. Weather destroys hay crops and infrastructure. Your inventory is thousands of pounds of animal that can injure you. Ranching consistently ranks among the more hazardous occupations, and an injury to the owner in a business where the owner does most of the work is itself an existential risk. There's no sick leave when the herd needs feeding. The ranches that genuinely work usually stop relying on cattle alone. They lease grazing rights, sell hay, run hunting leases, raise premium grass-fed or organic beef for higher prices, or add agritourism. The single-stream cow-calf operation, living purely on calf sales, is the hardest version to sustain. Many ranch families solve it a simpler way. Someone works off the ranch. An off-farm job, often the spouse's, provides the steady paycheck and the health insurance that the cattle cannot, and effectively subsidizes the operation. It's an extremely common arrangement in American agriculture, and it says something stark about the economics that a business worth millions frequently depends on outside employment to stay afloat. And notice what that means. The answer to ranching's economics is often to become something other than purely a rancher. So let's answer the real question. Why does owning a ranch suck? Because you tie up a fortune to earn a modest living at a return on capital that would be unacceptable in any other industry. Because your wealth is illiquid and inseparable from your ability to earn, so you're wealthy on paper and squeezed in your checking account. Because weather and commodity markets decide your year and you influence neither. Because your costs are fixed and your revenue isn't. Because the animals need you every single day, at every hour, in every season, and the work is physical and genuinely dangerous. And because the structural pressure of the industry keeps pushing toward a scale most owners can't reach, none of which stops anyone, and that's the honest ending. People buy ranches knowing all of it, because the compensation isn't financial. It's a life spent outdoors, work that's visibly real, land you're responsible for, and an independence that no salary buys. The margins are cruel, the labor is endless, and the returns are poor, and people still choose it every year and would choose it again. Owning a ranch sucks by every measure a spreadsheet can capture. The people who do it are measuring something else entirely, and they know exactly what it's costing them.